As the first rays of dawn pierce the ancient arches of the Colosseum, the air already hums with anticipation. Shadows of yesterday's carnage linger on the stone, a silent testament to the empire's unquenchable thirst. Below the tiers of seats, merchants hawk their wares, olives glistening in baskets, diluted wine sloshing in jugs, preparing for the masses yet to arrive. In the dim underbelly, beasts pace in iron cages, lions with protruding ribs, elephants trumpeting in fury, panthers slashing at the bars. Echoes of clashing metal rise from the tunnels, sharpening blades for the day's grim work. And then, the roar begins, a swelling tide of voices as thousands stream in, drawn by the spectacle that Rome mastered like no other, death veiled as thrill. This wasn't mere diversion. It was a calculated forge of fear and loyalty, where suffering became the ultimate show. Emperors manipulated the sands, flooding them for mock wars at sea, starving creatures for added drama, compelling captives to enact legends that ended in genuine horror. None of it random, every act a thread in the fabric of control. The cheers weren't innocent. They were oaths of allegiance, thundering through time. Today, we venture into that abyss, exploring the arena's most savage excesses, from ritualistic funerals drenched in blood to executions masquerading as drama. How did an empire turn agony into art? Stay with me and you'll see the shadows deepen. Imagine Rome in 264 BC, not yet the colossus it would become, but already seeding its dark legacy. At a nobleman's funeral, his sons forgo traditional rites. No marble effigies, no solemn invocations. Instead, they arm 6 slaves in pairs and unleash them in a cattle market reeking of earth and fire. This clash isn't for sport. It's a sacred debt to the departed, a way to soothe the unrestful dead with spilled life. Roots of this custom snake back to distant lands, where warriors met their end at gravesides to guard spirits in the afterlife. Over centuries, raw sacrifice evolved into duel, the fallen demanding not just any blood, but the clash of worthy foes. Rome's rivals, the Samnites, refined it further, and the elite adopted it with fervor. Lavishing gold on a tomb displayed fortune, staging a lethal contest screamed dominance. But what began as private mourning soon twisted into public strategy. By the late 3rd century BC, these fights infiltrated religious festivals, ostensibly honoring gods like Jupiter. The Senate cloaked it in devotion, yet the masses saw through the veil, orchestrated violence to bind hearts to the state. Even the gear whispered conquest. Fighters donned the trappings of vanquished enemies. The Samnites' bulky shield, the Thracians' arced blade, the Gauls' sweeping sword. Each wound reopened old triumphs, blood as vivid propaganda. As the spectacle swelled, so did the stages. Fleeting wooden platforms yielded to enduring stone amphitheatres, shrines to savagery drawing crowds by the thousands. No longer family affairs, the games belonged to Rome itself, each crimson drop reinforcing an unyielding truth. The empire held sway over lives, legions, and the very essence of mortality. But this was only the spark. What horrors would ignite from it? The transformation was just beginning, pulling beasts from the wild into the heart of the city. The arena's thunder wasn't solely for human strife. It echoed loudest when nature itself was dragged into the fray. From Africa's sun-scorched plains came lions, leopards clawed from Caucasian peaks, crocodiles wrested from the Nile's murky depths, even giraffes, loping giants hauled across endless sands. These weren't exhibits of wonder, they were doomed participants in venaciones, staged hunts that proclaimed Rome's mastery over the untamed. Survival? Irrelevant. Domination? Absolute. Julius Caesar ignited the frenzy in 46 BC, unveiling Europe's first giraffe, a bizarre fusion they dubbed camelopard, part camel, part predator. Admiration was fleeting. The creature was hurled to the sands for dismemberment, a stark emblem. If Rome could snare such oddities, no corner of the world was safe. The carnage escalated relentlessly. When the Colosseum debuted in AD 80, Emperor Titus presided over a festival claiming over 9,000 animal lives. Bones unearthed today bear scars of intentional famine, beasts emaciated to promise swift, spectacular ends. Elephants, once Hannibal's nightmare engines, now stampeded into enclosures for wholesale slaughter, their trumpets drowned by ecstatic crowds. The orchestration was as grand as the kills. Trappers braved remote wilds, caravans chained prizes through blistering deserts, ships ferried them along treacherous rivers. Handlers gambled their own skins to present these living spoils to a ravenous capital. Encountering a panther in its lair was peril enough. Witnessing one burst from confinement amid 50,000 frenzied voices, that was empire incarnate, each beast a trophy of subjugation. Emperors turned these hunts into personal triumphs. Commodus, ever the theatrical tyrant, entered as Hercules, felling scores of crippled creatures with arrow and club, craving divine aura. Yet the masses saw the sham, a pampered ruler rigging his glory. Chains bound the animals, limbs were hobbled, bellies hollowed by hunger, ensuring his victories rang hollow. Cheers flowed not from awe but from fear. Dissent invited doom. A subtler sorrow lurked in the aftermath. Voices like Pliny the Elder lamented vanishing species. Lions and leopards hunted to rarity, elephants teetering on oblivion to sate Rome's whims. The arena wasn't just a slaughterhouse. It ravaged ecosystems, an unwitting destroyer. But extinction? A minor cost for the facade of boundless rule. Every felled form on the bloodied sands fortified the myth. Nature bowed to Rome's will. What twisted innovations would follow when beasts alone no longer sufficed? Gladiators evoke images of balanced duels, honor-bound warriors circling with steel and skill. Rome's truth was far more perverse, a deliberate skew toward torment, with mismatched foes, outlandish arms, and rules bent for maximum anguish. Not all combatants were trained. Convicts and captives stumbled in, clad as jesters, clutching feeble wooden blades against hardened veteran. The audience howled as the hapless perished, justice reframed as jest. Weapons themselves fueled the drama. The retiarius, net and trident in hand like a spectral fisherman, pitted against the secutor, whose sleek helmet thwarted entanglement. Not fair play, but exquisite uncertainty. Would the web ensnare, or the blade prevail? Crowds feasted on that edge, even as outcomes were often preordained, scripted like shadowed puppetry. Scale amplified the obscenity. One fighter against hordes, or mock battalions clashing in microcosms of war. The arena awash in shattered shields, severed limbs, pooling crimson. When familiarity bred boredom, Rome innovated. Women entered the fray in the 1st century AD, gladiatrices battling dwarves, beasts, or kin. Satirists like Juvenal scoffed, but inscriptions confirm the reality, shattering norms while underscoring a brutal equity. No soul escaped the spectacle's grasp. Helmets doubled as instruments of suffering, visors pinching sight, weights crushing necks, forcing blind stumbles amid derisive laughter. Armor could shield or condemn, a cruel duality. Then came the ideological pageants, gladiators as caricatured barbarians, their defeats reenacting Rome's conquests, a perpetual reminder of supremacy. Every asymmetry, every exotic flourish, every boundary-pushing twist was engineered to jolt the senses, cement obedience, and ignite demands for escalation. But how far could this descent go? Midday brought a pivot, from combat to something even more insidious. As the sun climbed high and the morning's gore caked the sands, the mood shifted to damnatio ad bestias, condemnation to the beasts, where death wore the mask of narrative. Criminals, traitors, slaves in revolt, war's spoils, all thrust into roles they couldn't rewrite. Punishments echoed offences, thieves ravaged by wolves, firestarters engulfed in flames, betrayers fed to lions. Not chaos but curated lessons in blood, each act a chapter in a macabre epic. Emperor Trajan's Dacian triumph spanned 123 days, culling thousands in relentless rhythm, suspense building between horrors. Beasts reigned supreme in this theatre, lions ravenous from days without food, bears prodded to rage in pits, leopards pouncing on the quaking damned. The unknown amplified terror, swift mercy or prolonged play. Spectators bayed for the latter. Myths infused the cruelty, prisoners embodying fated figures, Orpheus dismembered by untamed hordes, Prometheus bound for avian torment. Legends no longer whispered, they screamed in flesh and finality. Death transcended mere end. It demanded performance, executions as elaborate dramas where agony replaced dialogue, crucifixions unfolded publicly, nails driven amid casual commerce, children darting underfoot. Fire claimed others via the tunica molesta, pitch-drenched garb ignited to create writhing human flames, as Tertullian noted, torches of living despair. These weren't idle killings, they etched warnings into collective memory, defy the empire and perish under watchful eyes. Not all Romans embraced it. Seneca decried how such midday horrors eroded compassion, forging colder hearts. Yet his words faded against the din, the mob craving not righteousness, but the rush of retribution. What if the arena demanded more than land-bound savagery? Emperors conjured seas within stone. Rome's ingenuity knew no bounds, summoning water as ally in atrocity. Naumachii simulated naval clashes, transformed basins into floating graveyards, scale-defying reason. Caesar pioneered in 46 BC, excavating a vast pool by the Tiber, stocking it with vessels and forcing captives aboard as enemy fleets. No rehearsal. Arrows flew, rams splintered, blood mingled with waves in a watery massacre. Augustus amplified the excess in 2 BC, crafting a colossal reservoir fed by dedicated aqueducts, where 30 warships teemed with the doomed, their clash as a testament to Rome's command over elements. Claudius, in AD 52, drained an entire lake for his display, the condemned hailing him with that eternal chill. "We who are about to die salute you." Whether coerced or defiant, it captured their void. Fire wove into mythic reenactments too. Victims in flammable tunics as Hercules or Mucius Scaevola, flames devouring as crowds jeered, heroism reduced to ridicule. The Colosseum's bowels hid engineering marvels, subterranean ducts to flood and drain the floor, pivoting from aquatic battles to dry duels overnight. Cruelty as architecture, to submerge men, ignite bodies, warp tales into torment that proclaimed godlike dominion. Emperors didn't merely govern, they orchestrated reality itself. But creativity veered into malice, myths hijacked for deeper degradation. By the Colosseum's inauguration under Titus, executions evolved into inventive travesties, legends perverted into lethal farce. Poet Martial chronicled a performer as Orpheus, lyre enchanting beasts in tale, but here, a bear erupted mid-song, mauling the hero amid ironic cheers. Beauty butchered, another as Daedalus, hoisted on makeshift wings for illusory flight, only to plummet to waiting jaws. Martial mused he'd yearn for true plumage. Most abhorrent, Pasiphae, mythically cursed with beastly lust, reenacted via contrivance, blending execution with obscene mockery, hubris punished through public shame. Rome commandeered its heritage, recasting icons as disposable pawns. For onlookers, interludes between gladiatorial peaks. For victims, finales in finery. For the state, ideology incarnate, affirming control over law and life. Stories etched not in scrolls but seared into sinew, applauded to oblivion. Emperors blurred leadership with lunacy, whims dictating fates. Caligula, volatile as storm, depleted beasts mid-show and yanked spectators to substitute, turning audience to actors in terror. Nero costumed prisoners as dramatic figures, slaying them per plot. His masterpiece, Rome's nightmare. Commodus, Hercules incarnate, massacred maimed animals, extorting adulation while draining coffers. Domitian's torchlit nocturnal hunts sowed dread, amusement teetering on threat. Even Trajan, the equitable, commemorated conquest with 123 days of slaughter, power's price in lives. Such extravagance bred backlash. Caligula and Commodus met violent ends, spectacles exposing fragility. Dissent simmered quietly. Seneca mourned empathy's loss. Cicero balanced valor with revulsion at gratuitous pain, yet conceded games as governance's toll. Christians faced the arena as martyrs. Faith-fueled defiance turned to sport, Tertullian branding it cruelty's cradle. Financially, spectacles gorged on wealth, emperors beggaring realms for grandeur. Culturally, they dulled Rome's spirit. Juvenals bred in circuses scorned a populace hooked on handouts over honor, eroding republican vigor. As borders frayed and treasuries emptied, arenas decayed. By the 5th century, the Colosseum stood mute, its echoes stilled. Yet its lessons endure. Societies reveling in normalized brutality invite their own unraveling. Walk those ruins today, and phantom cries may stir. Clash of arms, beastly snarls, unified roars. Admire the masonry, but confront its core. Savagery systematized. Rome's games weren't about thrills alone. They molded minds, enforced fealty, rendered power immortal, until it wasn't. That crumbling facade whispers a timeless caution. Empires built on echoed applause often collapse under their weight.